Hello everyone, welcome to the second episode of the Inside Swoop, where we highlight athletes and coaches from Northwest University Athletics. I'm your host, Maya Duchesne, and today I'm joined by a few members of the Northwest University women's volleyball team who just recently returned from a missions trip in the Yucatán Peninsula of Mexico, alongside their missions partners, Yucatán Helping Hands. They also partnered with Rolling Bays Presbyterian to complete their main mission of construction of a water plant for the Yucatan community. Now, a trip like this doesn't just conveniently fall into the calendar. It takes months, even years of planning. Coach Bain was instrumental in planning all of this. So Coach Bain, why don't you take us through the beginning stages of how this all happened up until the day of departure?
Well, might have to go back further than even a year, because the relationship that I have with Byron and Inez Ahina of Yucatán Helping Hands predates all of your birth dates. It goes back 30 years when we were members of Calvin Presbyterian Church along with Byron and Inez. And then in 2002, they were called, following the impact of Hurricane Isidore on the Yucatán Peninsula, to accept a call to serve the people in that region. And over the years, they have built homes, held ESL classes, they have conducted medical missions, and more recently, they have been involved in bringing clean water to the region, the surrounding regions that basically don't have clean drinking water. And in fact, it's one of the main sources of illness throughout that region is the lack of clean drinking water. And so a little over a year ago, in one of our regular action team meetings with Byron and Inez, it occurred to me that we should do a mission trip in the Yucatan. And that started the ball rolling, and just some, God-driven coincidences made it fall into place.
So let's talk about water plant construction, because for the viewers and listeners, that may be completely different than what they're picturing. So Delaney Sparks, sophomore pin hitter out of Rockland, California. And looking at pictures, I saw a ton of pictures of you, paint on your face, dirt on your gloves. So tell us what construction was like and what the progress looked like from day one till the day you left.
Construction was absolutely unreal. It was really, really hard, and it was really, really hot. Day one, we started shoveling all the rocks and all the dirt out. And then after that, it was kind of just full speed ahead. We were making concrete, pouring concrete. There were people carrying sand buckets, rock buckets, so we could make the cement. And then we poured it. We had a really good team put together that made the whole thing a lot easier. Construction in itself was really difficult, but I think the team camaraderie as a whole was really special to see. I think it was the best, and this was part of the reason why Coach Bain was so excited for us to come on this trip, is because it was going to be a really good opportunity for us to kind of grow as a team. And I personally think it was the best that we've ever been as a unit. And we worked really well together. And not only that, but we made some really good relationships and friendships with the crew that we worked with. We had dance parties with them. We worked really hard with them. We sweat with them. And it made the whole thing a lot more fun. So it was tough, but it was all worth it in the end. And to see the end result, I mean, we don't get to see the end result, but we were just a really big part in making it all happen. So it was really fruitful to see it all come together.
Cool. So the team didn't make the trek all the way to Mexico just to work, eat, sleep, and repeat. Rather, they stretched their arms further into the Chalmooch community. So Ellie Van Berkum, sophomore defensive specialist out of Linden, Washington, tell us what the afternoons looked like for the teams and in terms of the volleyball camps that you put on.
Yeah. So the Chalmooch Pueblo had a outdoor sports court that we were able to utilize, and we set up a stand-up net. We started with 3 kids the first day that we were there, and then started calling kids off the street. Community members came and hung out, and by the end, we had 20 plus kids coming every day, which was absolutely wonderful. It was a mix of coaching and growing relationships with, we brought arts and crafts, so we made bracelets. We were able to kind of share the salvation story through bead making and bracelet making, so that was just a joy. There was just, everybody was able to use their gifts in some sort of way, whether that was coaching and finding community that way, or just having so much fun with the littles creating things. So that was kind of what our afternoons looked like.
Savannah, Hale, defensive specialist out of Sandy, Oregon. You had a very unique and special opportunity being a woman of many talents, so I hear. So tell us about the opportunity that you were given and the things you encountered spiritually through it.
Yeah, so on our arrival and then on our departure, there were 2 services that we were able to go to at their church there in Chalmuch, and music is a really big part of their community in Mexico, and just in general, they love music. And both times there were people from the community that came up and performed a song for us or led us in worship. And in the planning for the trip, Byron and Inez posed the question a couple times, is there anyone from your group that can lead worship or that would like to kind of just facilitate that musically? And so I was given the opportunity on our departure service, our farewell service, to lead worship. And originally they didn't ask me to do it in Spanish, but I kind of thought, well, I don't want to go to a place and sing in a language that no one is going to understand. And so a couple months before the trip, I started learning some songs in Spanish that I already knew in English, and then prepared some chords and whatnot to play on keys. And I don't really play the keys very much, so that was a first for me. But yeah, so I was given the opportunity to do that, and kind of coincidentally, our team sat on the left side, at least from me facing the congregation. They sat on the left side, and the rest of the church congregation sat on the right side. And so while we were singing, it was English on the left and Spanish on the right. And it was a really cool opportunity, at least from my perspective, to hear the same songs being sung in 2 languages at the same time. That's not something I've ever experienced. Even as a worship leader, I've never really had that experience. And so that was just a really cool representation for me and for all of us about how worship doesn't really have a language barrier, that you don't have to be a singer to worship. You don't have to speak the same language to worship, that we all worship the same God. And that that's really the thing that unites all of us. And we could have nothing else in common, but that one thing in common is enough to unite us all as a community.
Delaney, back to you. Talk to me about some of the logistics of the trip, where you guys slept, what you ate, how did you maneuver the obvious language barrier? Just talk about that a bit.
Yeah, so the people of this pueblo are some of the most selfless that I have ever encountered. At least upon all of our arrivals, everyone was super welcoming and opened up their homes to us. So we got the opportunity to stay in houses of people that are part of the pueblo. So I stayed in Juan's house, and he was willing to leave his home and let us kind of just take over, which was so kind of him. And we all got to sleep in hammocks. The hammocks was definitely an experience, but a really amazing opportunity, I would say, and something I've never done before. I also, we all got to take home our hammocks, which was really cool. And they put a lot of time and effort and thought into those. So we were really, really thankful for that. So that was kind of our sleeping arrangement. In terms of food, we had an amazing and beautiful team of women in our kitchen who were serving us breakfast, lunch, and dinner every single meal. They were just out there cooking for us every single day. And we honestly could not have done it without them. We would not have been able to make it through without them. So that was really awesome. But when thinking about the language barrier, I would say the most amazing part was that we had 3 Ellie's mom. She came along and we had 3 amazing translators. Shout out to Aldo and Josue if you're watching. But we had our translators there to help us through and kind of maneuver through the language barrier. But I would say something that I kind of came away from the trip was like understanding that communication is not just something that's verbal. You get to communicate with those people through nonverbals. That's how you communicate. And I would also say that I learned a lot of Spanish. I've never taken Spanish. And so I just kind of got to deep dive right into the deep end. And I walk away now having learned way more Spanish than I've ever learned. So that was really cool. But, obviously you're in a pueblo of people that don't speak English, and you just have to kind of get through it. And I think our team overcame that really well and did it in a loving way. And I'm grateful for the patience that the people of the pueblo had with us, our cooks and the people that we worked alongside of. They were so patient with us and probably made fun of us a little bit, but it was just a good time, and I'm really grateful for that. So yeah.
Good. It seems like no matter where you guys are in the world, you somehow find a way to play competitive volleyball just in your nature, or maybe in Coach Bain's nature, getting in some practices. So Ellie, tell us a little bit about the 2 matches that you guys played while you were in Mexico.
Yeah, so the Pueblo of Chalmuch was about 20 to 30 minutes outside of Merida. So we drove into Merida and played 2 local teams there. The first team that we played was a little bit younger, but just super eager to get good touches and play competitive volleyball. So we were able to play a couple of really fun sets with them. And then we ended up playing one of the best 18U teams in the Yucatan second. And that was also just a super competitive match. Super fun environment. People from the Pueblo came and watched and supported us. There were lots of people from the community that was involved with athletics there that were just cheering both sides on. And then we wore some retired uniforms, and then were able to give those to the program afterwards. And kind of each athlete on the other side of the net was able to come over and grab the number that they wanted. And that was just such a special blessing, able to give, but also just to have that type of unity over a game that we love, and then be able to conclude it in prayer was just absolutely moving. How Sav and Delaney had both said that, the community of Christ, there's not a language barrier. He unites us. And so being able to come together and play in a way that was competitive, but yet honoring to Christ was just an incredibly humbling and blessed experience. Yeah.
I saw a lot of unity through pictures, looking through pictures that you guys would post, especially with the kids in the community. So Savannah, tell us a little bit about the relationships that you built with the kids and how much fun they were.
Yeah. So throughout the opportunities to do these camps and other outreach opportunities in the Pueblo, we interacted with a lot of kids, and a lot of them were probably under the age of 12, I would say. And there were some really little ones too that came to camp that honestly, if we're going to be honest, had no interest in playing volleyball, but they loved to make the bracelets and they loved to color. And every day they came and waited outside of their houses for hours before waiting for camp to start so they could come hang out and just color and hang out with us. Kind of similar to what these 2 have talked about the language barrier, is that these kids, some of them, I don't even know if they had really an awareness that we didn't really speak their language. Like there was this one little girl that would run up to me and just rattle off paragraphs in Spanish. And I would just kind of go, yeah, that's great. And then she would just run away, and then she would keep doing it. And we were the best of friends, but she had no idea. I don't think that I actually didn't understand what she was saying, but just someone there to hear her and acknowledge that she was seen and heard, I think meant a lot to her. And we were able to do that with a lot of the kids. Our broken Spanish or Spanglish, we were able to communicate more than we thought we would. And these kids were honestly very precious. I know that a lot of members of our group kind of coincidentally are education majors or want to work in education with kids. I know that all three of us are either education majors or have taken education classes. And I was talking to one of the professors in the ed department the other day, and she was like, I feel like the whole volleyball team is education majors. It's great. And so I know that that's a lot of our areas of interest. We all already like working with kids. And so this was kind of like a natural opportunity that lended itself to a lot of us. And it was just something that we really enjoyed and were able to come away with some relationships formed with those kids. And I know we're all going to miss those kids. I know I do. So,
yeah. Coach Bain, let's circle back to you. I know you had a lot of the same experience, met the same people, ate the same food, but I also believe that you had an entirely different perspective. You get to see your players on the court every day or just on campus. So tell us what it was like to see God use their personalities and use their gifts to move throughout this mission trip.
Well, you're right. I was an observer. I was watching very closely to see how they interacted with one another. And it might have started off that way, but once they started to work together as a team, I kind of switched that observational thing off and tried to serve alongside them. One of the terrific things about the project at the very end was the Masons constructed a water drop to go on the outside of the building. And then within that water drop, we put the verse that we had selected for this trip, which is 1 Peter 4:10, which essentially says, use your gifts to serve others. And that's been a theme in our program ever since I've been here, to have players come into the program. Everyone is going to be unique. They're going to have certain gifts, and we want to encourage them to explore those gifts. We want to encourage them to grow those gifts, not for their own ego, but so that they can use them to make others better. And I'd have to say that despite 100-degree heat, 80% humidity, scorpions crawling in the rooms, eating different food, working from sunrise to sunset, either on construction or running a volleyball camp, just the foundation that they had just in terms of being able to work together. Maybe there was drama. I didn't see any drama. The most drama was maybe some of them don't like scorpions. I mean, other than that, I mean, it was just amazing, and truly a lot of kudos to Byron and Inez Ahina and Yucatán Helping Hands, and just, I mean, they've been doing this for nearly 2 decades, and they just were in the background all the time, but their hand on the logistics, I mean, even to the point of organizing a volleyball opportunity was a competitive opportunity for the team. It was just amazing just how they supported this group. And you know, it was just so fun, you know, that there were obstacles and challenges along the way. Like, we got there a day late because our flight was canceled. We were 1 block away from Byron and Inez's home, and the bus gets in a wreck. And, you know, all of these opportunities just to have everything kind of fall apart and to bring drama, and it just didn't happen. It was truly a blessing for me to watch the team in that environment. So they've set a very high bar. So hopefully they won't screw it up, you know, and they'll keep everything going in the right direction.
So when you guys weren't working or running camps, what else did you do for fun?
So on the last day of our trip, we had to pack up and leave the pueblo of Chalmuch, and we headed into the city of Merida. And on this last day, we were kind of, in the trip planning, we were kind of given some options or some possibilities of what we could do to kind of experience the area we were in. And one of the options brought up was maybe going to the beach, and then another was going to these cenotes. So the option chosen for us was the cenotes, which was so incredible and honestly like not a once in a lifetime experience because maybe someone will do that again, but it was so cool and a first for all of us. So basically what a cenote is it's like an underground cave with, they're natural underground caves with freshwater swimming holes in them. So basically, we got on our bus and we went through a couple of cities past Merida, and we kind of were able to just like see what they looked like. To be honest, I didn't really know where we were the whole time. I was just kind of watching out the window and taking it all in. These super narrow streets were like dodging cars as we in our massive bus. And finally we get kind of out more into like the country. And so we're going, and it's just kind of open fields on either side of us. And we pull off of the highway in our bus into this clearing. We can't really tell like what's going on. We get out of the bus and we walk through this clearing a little ways, and there are kind of these like stands with horses. And so we get on these carts that are on railroad tracks, pulled by these horses, and they pull us out through this like kind of countryside to the cenotes. And so then we get off of our carts at the cenotes, climb down into these caves, and we went swimming, which was honestly just a time of joy and laughter and fun. I think after all of the hard work that we did, this was kind of like, it was just a time to like enjoy each other's company. And I think that everybody had fun, whether they were in the water swimming or just watching everyone have fun. I mean, even Coach Bain was in there doing everything with us. And
I saw possibly a picture of a rope swing. Was Coach Bain on that rope swing?
He sure was. So, and when I say he was on the rope swing, he was on the rope swing. So in the first cenote that we went to, there was this in every one, but especially the first one where the rope swing was, there are like stalactites and stalagmites coming down from the top of the cave. And if you swing too far or you swing the wrong way, you could swing into them. And I don't know if Coach Bain was doing this on purpose, trying to scare us. I don't know, but he came pretty close to hitting those a couple of times. And he goes and there's just a collective of screams as he gets closer to those, and we're all like, this can't be it. This can't be the way this ends. But like, Coach Bain. And he's like, oh, I'm fine. I did it on purpose. So it was overall just a wonderful time of making good memories. We laughed a lot. There was some singing of some songs in the cenotes, of course, everywhere we go. But yeah, yes. And so that was probably, it kind of felt like we were just in the middle of Indiana Jones or something. That's how I felt the whole time. So yeah, that was a highlight for sure.
I kind of want to pivot off of a question that you asked earlier about Coach Bain watching us, because I think we all were in turn doing the same thing to him. Coach Bain has a servant's heart. And even though every day in practice, it's all about numbers and, results and things like that, everybody knows how hard he works in preparation, at practice, post-practice. And seeing that same servitude on the trip was incredibly humbling. We're out doing construction in 100-degree weather. Me and a couple people are painting on the roof, and I hear a voice, do you guys have your waters up here? And Coach Bain is up on a ladder that is not stable at all. We're like, what are you doing? He's, when we made cement, they're making it like in a hand mixer basically, and they pour it on the ground and scoop it and put it in a wheelbarrow to be brought inside. He's scooping cement alongside of us. Nothing that we did was, he did it all with us. And his, shout out to shout out to Betsy. She's a massive part of our team as well. She was not able to come with us on the trip, but it is not easy to manage a group of 20 individuals. It's very well. And he just did it so well and with so much patience. And Just again, so much servitude. And so I just wanted to say thank you on behalf of the team because it means a lot. So, yeah.
I don't think, as important as Byron and Inez were, and they were super important, having Mitch Faber and Ellie Van Berkum go along on this trip was huge. And if I worked hard, Mitch Faber worked 10 times harder than I did. Their participation, it just doesn't happen without them. And they were every bit the servant I was, and certainly that these women were. So shout out to them. They were terrific.
Thank you for joining us on the second episode of the Inside Swoop. On behalf of the Northwest University Women's Volleyball team, we thank anybody who donated financially or who prayed for this team. You were able to hear all of the amazing things they were able to encounter. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.